All right, guys, we are live, kinda. This is a pre-recorded live stream because the hours difference. I didn't want to keep Peter up too late, and I'm not getting up that early. So I have a very cool guest on today, and I hope everyone's in the chat. I know we probably have quite a few people already in the chat. So without further ado, let's bring on Mr. Pieter Malan.
Good. Hi. I want to say good afternoon because it's like 5 o'clock here, or no, it's almost 6 o'clock here. But yeah, hi guys.
Yeah, so this will be, I'll probably drop this around 8 o'clock. I usually do 8 o'clock on Thursdays, so it's evening
Okay.
here.
Well, proper. Good evening then, everybody.
Nice. So Peter, man, there's so much to go over. And I try and have really interesting people on the podcast. And when I first met you at the Gundies, you were a character. And I'm like, I got to get to know a little bit more about this guy. And so we met at the Gundies. We rode a tank together, which was amazing.
Highlight.
And are you going to go back to the Gundies again this year?
Um, I don't know. I was nominated again for Influencer of the Year, which is very cool. However, flights have gotten ridiculously expensive ever since COVID sort of calmed down.
Right.
Or ever since they're pushing the latest agenda on us. But I don't know. If I make it, I might go. I've got many other businesses that I run outside of YouTube, so I'm spread a little thin. That trip was fun. How scary was it that there was a mass shooting just after we were there, dude? That was nuts.
You know, that mass shooting there's still a lot of questions regarding it. So if people don't know, when you go to the Gundies, it's at Drive Tanks, which is just outside of Uvalde, Texas. And I don't know about you, Peter, but my hotel in Uvalde was a shithole. And I don't remember the Taco Bell closed at 10 o'clock because there's nobody that buys food after 10 there. That was on a Friday night, by the way. The Burger King had been closed for years. The McDonald's had been closed for years. It's a very poor. It's our township here in this state.
Yeah.
And
So for the guys that don't know, I'm from South Africa and we're seen as sort of a third world poor country. And I was driving through that town and going like, oh boy, this is rough. Like that town's like, very in almost like a derelict state. It's hard to say because there was no Uber there. To give you guys an example, I walked for about an hour and a half from our shithole hotel. Sorry, people at the Gundies, but you really skimped on the accommodation. I walked to Walmart, which was about an hour and a half walk. And yeah, I couldn't get an Uber. And I walked through that part of town and it was really like it was lots of abandoned buildings. And obviously we didn't see the whole town, but that was the main road, which generally gives you a good indication of sort of where the town's at. But
yeah. I remember stopping in the big gas station, and getting some monsters and some snacks for the hotel. And it was kind of like the hangout spot was the gas station. And so my question is, you're a gun guy. Where did this kid get $8,000 to buy all this gear to go on this mass shooting? No one's ever answered that question. Gun shops don't get
interesting
credit,
one. Yeah. Here they do. In South Africa they do. You could buy guns if you have no money. But it does take you, 6-7 months to go through the whole licensing and background checks and all the shenanigans that go with that. But yeah, that is a head scratcher. I haven't, to be honest, I try not dive too deep into the conspiracy theories and the stuff because I think there's, for us as creative people, unless you're making that kind of content, I make sort of other educational style content. I try not to spend too much time thinking about stuff that, is not going to make that much of a difference in my own life. However, that there are, with a lot of these things, there's a lot of head scratching stuff. Let me tell you what I do, since we're on this topic. If I was in the school in the United States, because we live in South Africa, I've obviously got a YouTube channel, we focus on firearms. My life would be a hell of a lot easier if I lived in America, just with companies sending me stuff, everything.
Right.
However, that's the thing sort of my wife and I get back to. Now I put my little girl in a school because I'd want to move to Texas, right? It was a no-brainer to move to Texas. It's going to be sort of like the closest to home, sort of look and feel. And I purely between you and I and all of your viewers, I just want to buy an F-150 Raptor R because we can't buy those here. That's like largely why I want to move to America for the badass trucks you guys have access to.
Yes,
But
we do.
if I was in if I had a kid in school there, I'd demand that the school have like at least 4 freaking armed security guards on the payroll. How hard could that be? It's very inexpensive to implement something like that. Raise the school fees by
Right.
like $30 a parent or something, and your kids are safe. I don't
Well,
know.
it's crazy too in the U.S. especially. We have armed guards in banks and hotels and everywhere else everywhere except our schools.
Mm,
And we have
yeah,
so many returning vets. We have millions of returning vets that really don't have anything to do, but they're war trained fighters. And
yeah,
if you screened, 1 out of 10 of those guys ought to be pretty good around children. Uh,
hundreds. And I mean, it could even be like a dual sort of use. I mean, I think those guys could be great role models for, young kids that come from broken homes, which is generally the perpetrator in this scenario. Somebody without an authoritarian male figure in their life. If
100%.
you could have a football coach or something like that served in the military, that's got a strong sense of discipline, he's got his values, he's got God, he's got all of those things. I mean, that's the type of people you want your kids around. Yeah, it's a difficult situation that, and it's
So
odd that they sort of come in bundles too. And obviously, with watching all the 2A content with some of the other creators we met at the Gandhis and Coleon's channel, all of those guys, it's very interesting from my side as a sort of not an active person in the firearm space in America to see how your government pushes that control and all the magazine bans and the bump stocks and all the crap you have to deal with.
it's just something new every
Um,
time you turn on the tele.
yeah,
I
yeah.
have a question. So since we're talking about vehicles, do you miss your Audi S3?
Yes, I do. I have a car problem as much as I have a gun problem. So that was the first car, the proper car I ever bought for myself. I had a VW Polo, so a Volkswagen, and I drove that thing till the wheels came off. And I went from a 1.4 Polo to a brand new out the box, the new spec Audis that came out in 2014 or
It's a
something.
2.0 turbo, right?
A white one. It was stunning. The
Oh,
two-door one. It was such a
very nice.
awesome little car. Alcantara leather, everything. Yeah, I miss that car. I would buy another one of those in a heartbeat.
What's funny is Audi in the US, back in the 80s and 90s, Audi was like the poor man's car. Like, oh, Audi 5000's trash. And then,
Mm.
you know, I they just blew up late 90s. They are like, I would love to get a S6. I love it. I love
Oh
Audis.
yeah,
Yeah,
I almost bought a RS4 about a year and a half ago. Yeah, a RS4 Avant, which is like the station wagon thing. Dude, that thing rips. It's so fast and it sounds brutal. It's a freaking badass car.
did you guys get the
And that
Scirocco from Volkswagen?
No, yes, we did it actually. Yeah, we had those here. I don't know if they still sell them here. I'm not actually
That
sure. You
was
don't
I
see
learned how
many
to
of them
drive
on the
stick
road.
shift in a I think it was an 86 Scirocco. And I know they re-released them in Europe, but we couldn't get them in the US.
Yeah, the new ones are they're not that new anymore, but they are nice looking cars. Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
love
I'm
that.
not sure if they're still selling them here. It's funny how when we're young, we want to drive stick shifts, and like now, I just want an automatic car because it's just so easy. Just put your foot down and cruise to wherever you want to go.
Right. So I had a Nissan GTR for a little bit, and everyone's like, "Oh
Oh,
man, it's not a stick shift." I'm like, that car shifts faster than I could ever shift. Technical difficulties, folks. Let's look in the chat, even though I can't see who's in the chat. I'm sure everybody is there. Um, welcome back. All right, Peter's logging back in.
sorry.
There we
So
go.
we've got this thing in South Africa where the government switches off our electricity. They've been doing it since 2007. They call it load shedding, but what it really is, it's rolling blackouts. So essentially, they've embezzled so much money from the people of South Africa, stolen the money,
Right.
where we no longer have enough electricity to keep the lights on. So given what stage of load shedding you're on, your power might be off, up to 8 hours every single day. So
So
far
you
in
know, in the U.S.,
2022, a third of the time, in 2022, and this is what, the 10th of March or whatever, no, the 10th of Feb, 12th, good Lord, this is when you work for yourself. You don't even know what day of the week it is. But so far, we haven't had electricity in this country for a third of the year.
that's crazy. So they're doing that in certain states, United States. Like by 2035, California has to be all electric. Right now,
Yeah.
think on this. Last year, they had rolling blackouts, and they said if you have an electric car, stay home, don't charge it. So what happens when the government has full control over all the vehicles you drive,
Yeah.
and then they just say, you know what, no one can go out. You're staying home.
See,
No
this is
electricity.
why I have a 1984 Land Cruiser that I'm busy preparing to build up because that thing has no internet connection. I don't think there's many electronic parts in there, and nobody's going to shut that thing off other than the fact that I'll probably eventually struggle to get gasoline for it
It's a
because
84.
it's a 1984 FJ60.
Oh, I love it, man. That's a nice big box.
Oh, they're massive, yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
a
I put
great.
some 37-inch tires on it. It's going to be ridiculous.
There's a company in the United States that I saw one here in Houston that was completely retro modded. I think it was an
Hmm.
86 or an 85, and it looked brand new. And
Yeah, if
he
you're
had it
into cars,
all.
the Icon
Oh, great.
Motorsport, they're on YouTube. They're sick. They build such nice stuff, but they're very, very expensive. They can go for like $1 million in US, which is nuts.
Right. So let me ask you a question. I guess since this is a gun podcast, we should probably talk about guns. So have you always been into guns? Were you raised with guns?
So yes and no. So I grew up on a farm up until about the age of 7. So during those sort of, from what I guess your parents will start introducing you at like 5-ish. For a few years, I was kind of on the farm on and off when my folks got divorced. So up until like low teens, 13, 14, I was still visiting my dad. And then all of a sudden, so then we would shoot. We would hang around, mess around with rim fires, those kind of things, go with them on the odd hunting trip where they would wound animals because they don't know how to shoot. They'd sort of Kentucky windage it, those all those kind of things, and that was horrible for me. So then many years went by where I didn't have any firearms and I wasn't involved in the scene. I couldn't care about hunting, nothing like that. And then I got an injury doing cycling and many other sports that I do. I got some injuries, and after one of my surgeries, I was sort of lying there watching YouTube, and one video led to another video, and lo and behold, I ended up on Demolition Ranch's channel. And I was watching a few of his videos, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool. I wonder if you could like do this as a sport." And I found some local pistol shooting clubs, bought a few handguns, started shooting IPSC matches, really enjoyed them, but there was something missing. Like it didn't really, the competitive side of it was fun, but there wasn't sort of that, it didn't grab me. And it was the one day at a match where I saw a poster for a precision rifle competition. I was like, let me go check that out. So I went there, checked it out, and I was like, oh boy, this is my vibe. Went to shoot the first one, came stone dead last. I had to go through the process of buying a rifle, bought a Ruger precision rifle 6.5 Creedmoor off the shelf, went to my first competition, stone dead last, but absolutely loved it. And I figured
Was
out
that a,
what I
was that a
needed to work
pretty
on.
was that a pretty harsh reality check coming in that dead last? I've seen some precision shooters, and man, they are so good. They are so good.
Yeah, it is. It's quite a skill. To be honest, my goal going into this match was not to be disqualified. I just wanted to make it through the whole thing without any major safety violations, and that was exactly what my expectation was for my first IPSC match. I couldn't care where I finished. I just didn't want to break any major firearm safety rules. So that for me, that was kind of mission accomplished. It would have been great to hit like more than 3 targets, but but it kind of is what it is.
Nice. So it's funny. So when we met, we met at the in line, I think, for the tanks, and then we chatted a little bit. And I was like, man, this guy is so goal focused. And I know a few people like you and your personality. There's two types. There's one that try and do everything and be good at everything, and there's one that just focuses on one thing. They're good at it, then they go on next and the next and next and next. So you did cycling.
Hmm.
What else? What else did you do?
I did some motocross. I did martial arts as a kid.
Right.
So I've been very much into triathlons and those kind of things. I always loved endurance sports. My problem was sort of that my mind is stronger than my body. So I got that sort of never say die mindset, but I didn't get the body to match. So I would like trash my joints running. I literally just ran in the beginning of last year. I ran to the point where I had to get an Achilles surgery. So slightly after the Gundies, I don't know if you remember, but at the Gundies, I actually went for runs in the morning before we went out, running
Yeah,
up and down the bloody,
I thought you were
yeah.
crazy.
And it was super cold. I wasn't
It was
expecting that.
cold.
Yeah. And but I eventually ran myself into where I had to get surgery on my right Achilles in the middle of last year, which really sucked. So now I'm like I just weight train now and I just take it easy and I don't want to hurt myself anymore.
Yeah, well, long precision shooting isn't exactly the most strenuous physically, but it's probably more mental.
Yeah, we've had some stages in the past where they have these crash test dummies, for example, that go in the cars. So those things weigh what we would weigh. It's, I don't know, 80 kilograms or 170 odd pounds, round about there. And we would have to engage like 3 or 4 targets, run 20 meters back, pick this freaking dummy up, throw it over your shoulder, and like carry it another 40 meters to the next station, put it down in a chair, run back to your rifle, engage more targets, run back to the dummy, take it back to the first location. So we've had a few stages that really get the heart rate up. And I really enjoy those because I'm quite a physical person, so those really suit me as opposed to sort of the more, just lying down and prone shooting. So I really like it when it's more dynamic in terms of movement. You got to engage multiple targets from multiple different positions because that really suits my sort of style of shooting and competing, I guess. Yeah.
So that Ruger precision rifle, I have the same rifle, but mine's in 308. Now, did you
Okay.
mess with that at all, or did you change like the trigger or anything, or did you just use that?
No,
How soon did
I
you
did
graduate from that rifle
minor
to something
upgrades.
higher?
I shot it for about a year. And there was nothing wrong with the rifle. The only reason I decided to sell that rifle, and I've actually got a video on YouTube on my channel of why I sold that rifle. It was a wonderful rifle. The problem is I was limited to the platform, and the more I sort of learned the sport, the more I realized the shortcomings of the Ruger precision rifle as a precision rifle instrument. And when I mean precision rifle, I mean specifically for the sport, shooting off barricades. Just the fact that it has like a round forend on the version that I still had. It wouldn't really sit on a bag as much as you wanted it to. It had a key mod rail. So a lot of little things like that. And you were really, as I said, you were married to the platform. Whereas if I have a Remington 700 rifle, like the one you see behind me at the top there, I can literally just grab a chassis and freaking in seconds pop that into something to make it suit whatever discipline I want to partake in that specific weekend. So it's a little bit more modular in that sense. And that's why I eventually decided to sell my Ruger. And the timing was really good. Again, based in South Africa, things take a long time to get here. So I had got my Ruger precision rifle out of the first shipment. Everybody saw what amazing rifles they were. So there was a massive demand for people looking to buy them. So I could sell it after a year for more than I initially paid for it. And that is proof that firearms are a good investment. And you can show your wife this clip if she
100%.
ever doubts you.
Well, I mean, there's an American saying. So if I ever die, I hope someone tells my wife not to sell the guns for what I told her I paid for them.
Yeah, that saying's
Because
pretty universal.
yeah, yeah, it's a trip. I actually have a Remington 700 behind me here that I'm building because I'm
Nice.
doing a video series on I'm brand new to the long distance shooting. I used to tinker around years ago, but I've never taken it serious. And everybody seems to have one of these in their safe. They don't ever shoot them. It just kind of sits there. So my goal is how accurate can I get this rifle on a budget?
What is that chambered in?
308.
Okay, God's cartridge. I like
Yeah.
it.
So, everyone has a 308. That's why I went with that. And it's kind of sitting there. And so I put a muzzle brake on it. The glass is terrible. And then
Okay.
I got this MC3 chassis in it.
Okay.
So I'm gonna stick this on it next. It's pretty nice, but I see what you mean
Okay.
about having a
Nice.
flat front end.
Especially if
So
you're
I'm gonna
shooting off bags and stuff like that, off, sort of sloped obstacles and things. The flat just it
yeah.
makes it so much easier, yeah. And it's
So
really like if you don't know what you don't know, as soon as you sort of go and maybe if you go to your first match or something like that, ask somebody if you can take their rifle and actually just put it down on a bag and look through it on an obstacle. It's when you're sitting down, it's easy to get comfortable behind most people's rifles.
right.
But you'll really feel the difference once you start sort of shooting off stuff with a chassis system that has been designed specifically to do that. And that's where sort of the Ruger fell short for me. But I didn't know that going in. If you just wanted to get a Ruger for plinking, it's an amazing firearm. I think they nailed it. And there's a
How far did
reason
you
they
stretch that
sold
out?
like tons of them. I think I got to about 1,400 meters with that one, if I remember correctly. Pretty
Wow.
consistently. Yeah. And some of that was even shooting like factory ammo. Those things shoot lights out, man. I had zero issues of mine. But to answer your other question, I didn't mod it that much. I put one of those LRI bolt shrouds on it because the version I had still had the bolt. And in the back of the bolt was this injection molded plastic piece of shit. And so I got rid of that immediately and put a sort of machined one on. I changed the bolt knob out, but like little upgrades. I didn't even bother with the trigger or stuff like that. I ran a silencer on the front and I did a rattle can spray job and it came out great.
Yeah, I have one. It's really cool. I've only taken it out to 100 yards. I haven't really messed with it yet. I
Mm,
sighted it at 100, and that's about it. I'm gonna mess with this
yeah.
project a little bit. So I'm gonna put this stock on, change out the glass a little bit, and
Hmm.
I don't know.
What have
I
you got
think.
in mind for what have you got in mind for optic wise?
Well, I mean, since you're on the channel, I probably have to say Vortex, right?
Yeah, good, good, good.
Has to be Vortex.
Well, it doesn't have to be. There's many great options out there. I've been shooting for Vortex for many years, and that's where they back me, so I back them. But I mean, listen, if I go to a match, whether I'm going to shoot a Leopold or a Zero Compromise or a Vortex or a Night Force, it's not going to make that much of a difference. I
Well, there's
just,
the new
yeah.
hot optic company out here with a lot of good stuff. It's called Right On. I don't know if you have that in
Yeah,
South
they've
Africa.
just actually come here about a year ago or so, and I was actually speaking this morning, speaking to a friend of mine who has the dealership for them, and we're sort of chatting about ideas as to how to videos and how to, set it up, zero turrets, all those kind of things. So yeah, there
Yeah,
are new
Right
here.
On.
I haven't actually had the pleasure of looking through one yet.
It's pretty for the money. It's pretty amazing how clear
Mm,
that glass is
mm,
because you can get a really nice setup for under $1,000, and it looks really nice. And
yeah.
I
For
don't know.
me, always, with us being based in South Africa, and I say this to a lot of people, I don't actually care what you buy because it really makes no difference to me, in terms of not yourself, but like the average consumer when they ask me whether they go buy an Athlon or a Vortex. I love them to buy a Vortex, obviously, because if people support the companies that support the channel, it helps everybody. So,
Right.
but what I often say to the guys, especially because we're based here in South Africa, and we've seen that with companies like massive, high end companies. Like I've got a friend who lives down the road. He's got a Schmittenbender, and he owns one. He does not have it because when it broke, it went to back to Germany or wherever, and he's been without his optic for months already. And they sent him like some crappy replacement thing, not even in the same brand, like another brand. And he's like going, what WTF? Whereas if my Vortex goes down, and they have in the past, because I'm very heavy on my rifles, I've dropped my rifles off things, I've smashed my scopes into things. Things happen as competition shooters. This is what happens. I once famously cleaned a stage, and I was so stoked that I left my rifle on the balance point, like turned around and high five my friend, and the rifle literally went like this, and like fell like on the elevation turret. And obviously, luckily, it was the end of the match. I still won the match, but yeah, the optic did not survive because we're shooting 30-pound rifles. The rifles are insanely heavy. Look at the barrel on this thing; it's like a truck axle. So the optic is by far the most complicated thing we have on our precision rifle. And if something's going to break, high probability it's going to be in the thing that's the most complex.
So how
So
how
from a
heavy is your
service point of view,
competition rifle now?
I'm usually at about 23 pounds. I found that's the sweet spot for me. Once it gets too heavy, as I said, I've had a few injuries. So I've got a titanium plate in this wrist, so I'm right-handed. So when I have to break down a position, and in order to be efficient, this is half of a chassis, but for your viewers watching the video, what we try and do is when we break down that position, I try and bring my rifle up vertically. So this way it's much easier to balance like this. Now, when my rifle's too heavy, to leverage, to hinge that rifle up becomes a little bit of a problem for me. So I found like 23 pounds is money for me, and I have a good balance of maneuverability and stability. We can coin that term.
Oh, nice. What caliber are you shooting?
I shoot a six dasher, so small little round. It's based on the 6BR cartridge. So we fire forward, the shoulders go forward a little bit. This might be lots of terminology that you're not familiar with, but
Yeah,
basically,
right over the head. But people in the chat, I have
yeah.
some pretty hardcore shooters in the
So
chat
when
for
the think about this, when the cartridge ignites, okay, I've got a whiteboard here. I could draw this for us. That might be a little bit high grade. Um, effectively the explosion, there is empty space in the chamber, and as the explosion happens, controlled explosion, the brass will actually fire form up into a new dimension. So when I extract that piece of brass, the virgin brass, it won't look the same. But the next time I shoot it, it'll be the same. So So there's just a little bit of a process to make. It's essentially, in layman's terms, it's a custom cartridge. So you can't walk into any store and buy 6 dasher loaded ammunition. It just doesn't exist.
Right, right. Now, most precision shooters, now I've heard once you get past 1,000 yards, every barrel is different. So you got to kind of find a load that fits your rifle. And you can take 5 rifles and each one will perform different with different ammunition.
Yeah.
So do most long range shooters reload all their own ammo?
Yes, but not for that reason necessarily. We reload all our own ammo because of cost. The volume we shoot, I would literally be bankrupt or I wouldn't be able to participate if I was shooting factory ammunition. There are guys lucky enough to have those sort of sponsors where they're shooting 6.5 Creamer or something like that.
Right.
But at least in my country, I cannot afford to buy factory ammo in boxes of 20 and go shoot a match where I have to burn 300 rounds, over a weekend. It's just not viable. Then you get the added benefit of shooting a load specifically for your firearm to shoot small little groups.
So how long after you started shooting at distance did you got into hand loading?
Ooh, almost immediately. I was already hand loading by the time I brought my Ruger Precision rifle because I was reloading for the pistol competition. So I was set up to reload for pistol.
Oh, nice.
I was using a Pro 1000. And pistol reloading is really like that. Let's call that, sort of belly crawling, like a baby would. And, reloading for precision rifle and long range reloading, it's way more advanced. So the rabbit hole gets really deep. It is very intimidating when you get into it because there's all these terminologies, and I'm reading the stuff on the internet going, what the hell are these people talking about? Because everybody, and that's the danger. And for me as a creator, it's something I try and focus on. Is when I'm explaining something in a video, I try and remember that I have forgotten things that most people that are watching these videos still need to learn. So I try and always have it as basic as possible. And sometimes that might be frustrating for somebody that knows what I know when they're also watching the video. They go like, okay, Pete, let's move it along. But I think that's the sort of balance we have to keep, is to not talk on a level where the new guy's going like, well, I don't learn anything because I don't know what the flip and base to ogive means, or something like that, which for us now is a very simple term. Everybody knows it when you're established. But in the beginning, it means, might as well be some random thing.
Yeah, I understand because when I first started I started my channel just over 2 years ago. I was still kind of a new shooter. I didn't know a whole lot. And now I always tell everyone I'm not an expert. But now it's like every video, every month, I kind of learn more and more and more. And I figured 4 or 5 years from now, I can call myself an expert. Do you find that ironic that, 6 years ago, you didn't know anything and now you're considered one of the most expert people in your field?
Good question. I just have to restart this camera because it maxed out on the recording limit. But I think it picked up right after or sort of as I finished my answer.
It's all right. That's why God invented editing. I can edit.
Exactly. So yeah, it's quite a journey to go from like not knowing anything to sort of being considered an expert in your field. What was really cool for my channel, if you go back to the beginning, I never pretended like I know everything. And still to this day, there's people that have forgotten more about shooting than what I know. But I know that I know enough where I can help somebody new learn. And if that's one person or 100,000 people, it kind of is what it is. And my goal is just that every video that somebody watches of mine, that they go, oh, cool, that's something I don't know. And I can apply that to my own shooting or hunting or whatever the case is. By the way, I have to congratulate you on your latest video, or one of your latest videos that seems to be pumping on the algorithm. So boom.
Oh, the PSA one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was pretty neat. It's so funny. So I have a lot of friends that have a lot of high-end cameras, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
you need all these at SHOT Show. You need a mic, and you need a lav, and you needed this Sony and this Canon. I go, no, man, you need a cell phone and the right timing. You just gotta.
Did you have any microphone on that or nothing?
No, it wasn't crowd enough. You really needed a mic.
It's amazing. I
And
always find YouTube so weird. I was talking to another friend of mine, a creative friend of mine, who's got 300,000 subscribers, and we were talking about how unpredictable the type of content is we make. Like, I will make a video where I go, this is gonna be a banger, and it like just sucks balls. And then I'll make a video where I think, oh, this is gonna be so boring. It's like a half an hour of me shooting out to a mile in pretty windy conditions, but I consider it boring. And it does 300,000 views in like 2 days. I'm going like, oh, okay, how does that make sense? But
Yeah, I mean, the videos I worked the hardest on, I remember I did one for Masterpiece Arms, MPA. They sent me a pistol, and I'm like, "Man, I gotta do the best one." And I had a story. I mean,
yeah.
I went to the museum with my kids to, because it's a masterpiece. I was gonna go with the whole theme. I did like a little intro with it. None of the audio came out, so I did it twice.
Ah,
And I spent so much time and energy, and the video has like 5,000 views.
that is frustrating.
And then I'll go to Academy, check ammo prices on something, and I have one that's like 300,000 views. It's like, really?
Yeah.
A video that cost me nothing except time.
No, yeah. And you were
Crushed.
there anyway, probably.
It's bizarre, man. So South
Yeah.
Africa, now, does it frustrate you how ignorant some people are? I know you run into a lot of people in the States, and they just think South
Why aren't you
Africa
black? I
is
get that.
they're just
Not just in the
giraffes and
movies.
elephants and Hutu tribes walking around. No one understands that South Africa is actually a pretty developed country.
Hmm.
You know, uh,
Yeah.
there's a lot of gold found there in the 30s and 40s. There's a big gold rush. There's a lot of diamonds, and there's a lot of valuable materials there. And South
Hmm.
Africa is more than just elephants and giraffes,
Oh, yeah,
although
big time. Because
they do have them.
yeah, we do
So,
have them. I don't keep these rifles around to shoot the lions outside my house. These are for competition.
hey, so I gotta ask you, what are the gun laws? So in the United States, you have to be a resident, and that's pretty much it.
Mm. So
You can
with
walk in,
us, you have
especially
to
in
do
Texas.
something.
You
Yeah,
can
you
do
can just.
anything you want.
So with us, I might get shit for this, but I actually think our system is pretty good. Um, the implementation of the system is not very necessarily very good, but the fundamentals of it I quite like. Because yes and no. I kind of feel everybody needs a firearm, but I also think that if you're a raging psychotic person, you should not be able to buy a firearm. Um, but where do you draw that line? So with us, let me run you through how our system works. So in order to have our firearms are classified in four categories, I guess. You have pistols, you have shotguns, then you have manually operated rifles, so bolt actions, and then you have semi-automatic or self-loading as they call them here. And so you have to get a competency certificate to physically prove that you know how these things work. So it's a written exam, which is the easiest exam you've done in your life. It's literally, if you've watched one YouTube video on firearms, like the bullet comes out this way, you put it in on this side. It's like super basic stuff. This is the trigger, this is the hammer, like it's really easy. And then demonstrate the firearm safety rules, never point it at anything you want to destroy, know what's beyond your target, all of those things. It's really basic. But you have to do this exam for every one of those four categories. Now, what you could do is up front, you could just do the one exam for all four, and then it's out the way.
Right.
Then once you have that competency certificate, this thing can take up to 4 months to get, because you got to go through background checks, they go to the police, they run your fingerprints, all of those things. Now, this is where I don't agree with it, the fact that it takes 4 months, because everything's paper-based. I physically have to fill in an application, go to my police station, hand it in with a stack of documents that motivate why I should be declared competent. Okay, you need to give a motivation. And then that goes on a truck to our other city, like 10 hours away from here. Once a month, the truck goes around South Africa to collect all of these papers, and then it takes it to a central firearms registry, which sounds like a bad word, which it probably is. But trust me, there's many illegal guns in this country too, or what we would consider illegal guns. You guys would just consider them guns. But then everything gets processed in this facility. Yes, your thing's approved. Now, when you want to go buy your rifle or whatever handgun, you need to take this piece of paper with you, because you cannot actually buy your rifle without that piece of paper. Technically, you could, but you would never be able to take ownership of it, because the rifle always stays at the place you bought it until you now have your firearm license for that serial number. So you basically go through the same process. You have your competency certificate that's been issued by the police. Then you do your motivation and your application for your new firearm. Let's say it's a 6.5 Creed Ruger Precision. That goes in, waits a month, gets collected by the truck, goes back to CFR. That takes another 3 months. Lately, they've been a little bit quicker. But that whole process could be digitized, and we could do it in 2-3 days.
Wait,
That's the
you do that
difference. Yeah.
every time you get a new gun? You have to do the whole thing over again?
Yeah, and by the way, depending on what thing, we have different types of licenses. So I have a sport shooting license, which means I only have to do that every 10 years. And after 10 years, the licenses will all expire, and I have to apply to renew them and go through that process again. If you have, for example, like an EDC gun, a Glock or something that you carry with you, and you license that under a Section 13 license, which is a self-defense license, that's only valid for 5 years. And after 5 years, you have to jump through all the hoops again. Now, those sort of things I don't agree with that much, but for the same reason why I don't think everybody should be driving, I don't think everybody should have firearms, because things change in people's lives. So I do feel like after 5 years, if you've robbed 17 liquor stores and you've got a criminal record, you should not be able to renew your firearm license, right? My
Yeah,
wife was
that's
in a car
probably a
accident
good idea.
last week. Last week's little fender bender, so nothing major. But the guy who was driving was because we've got his ID thing, he was over 90 years old. And he was still, my wife had gotten out of her car and was knocking on his glass, and he was still trying to reversing into the front of her Porsche. He hadn't realized he'd hit her yet. That guy should not be driving. So for the same
Yeah,
reason I have to now renew my license to drive, I think we kind of need to just, take stock of where the person is. Are they still, everything's hunky-dory? There's any long balls? Are they on the FBI watch list? That kind of thing.
what about
And if you're a
suppressors?
sane person, this is going to be hilarious, dude. So I can just walk in and buy a suppressor, no problem, no tax stamp, nothing. Same, like I have a company manufacturing suppressors, and we cannot make them fast enough because they just go out the door faster than we can make them. So we've
That's
got a back order
crazy.
list like crazy deep. So
See,
it's funny,
honestly,
like
though,
your system for suppressors is almost like our system for owning a new firearm.
so I think, I kind of agree. Like, I don't think every single person should own a gun, because I know a lot of people, man, that are whacked out. And I'm like, man, it's kind of stressful. And I'll probably get grief over that too. But I think, hey, man,
It
maybe we
is what
should
it
just,
is, dude.
I
The,
think we
the,
should
the
be able to
insane
take a
person
test.
outside the Walmart, excuse me for interrupting you, but I've been to the US multiple times, and I've seen some dodgy folks in Walmart or like outside of a fast food place, like screaming at his girlfriend in the parking lot. I don't think he should be able to buy a gun because he's clearly insane. So there should
Maybe.
be like a.
Well, women will drive you insane.
This is true.
Yeah, very true. So, like, I think, look, man, in the US, I think, if you choose to, you should be able to take a test, pretty hard test, maybe like a week of training. But after you pass, you should be able to go and buy whatever you want, anything you want.
Yes, I'm
Because
with
I
you on
think
that.
suppressors, like, once you shoot suppressed, it's just polite. I mean, I got the opportunity to shoot at a gun range indoors with, and, 3 people were with me, and they all had suppressors, and it was such a nice experience,
Of
you
course,
know?
no headache afterwards.
Right.
It's way more enjoyable. So I agree with that. I think that proficiency training is required. And then after you've got that, maybe let's renew that every, 10 years or whatever. It can be some kind of system there, or after a certain age or whatever the case may be. But then for us to go through the process of licensing every single firearm, it's a nightmare. And also for us precision rifle shooters, it's when you shoot IPSC competitions with the pistol, you're never replacing the barrel because it's just going to last indefinitely. But with
Right.
these precision rifles, like some of these cartridges I shoot, I can get less than 1,000 rounds per barrel. Okay, like my Wildcat long range cartridges, because there's so much powder going through such a small hole, it just absolutely annihilates the barrel. Now, every time I need to replace that barrel, I need to license that barrel as if it was a firearm, and that's a pain in my ass. So I don't
What?
think that should be an issue. Yeah. So that's one of the big thing our competition sort of crowd struggles with here is the fact that we have to license barrels as if they were firearms, and it's a massive process because you gotta prove that your previous barrel has been shot out, and then the police has got to prove the barrel. It's a nightmare. Yeah.
So
So
I
that
tell you
shouldn't be
what,
allowed.
don't move to Texas, because you're going to be broke. You'll be so broke.
Yeah, but
'Cause
see,
I
if I
went
move
from
to Texas, I'll just
California.
get free shit from all my sponsors. So that would be awesome.
Yeah, so it's funny. So I went from California to Texas, and I remember walking into a gun store, buying a gun. They loaded it for me, gave me a holster, and I walked out.
Boom. So they
That was,
loaded the magazine with bullets.
yeah, we loaded it up. He showed me how to
Oh,
load it
that's
and
cool.
take it apart and clean it, and it was great. It was
Yeah, it's
bananas.
like buying a new car and they fill the tank for you. It's beautiful.
Right, right. It was so cool. And then in California, there was a
Awesome.
10-day wait period. You had to take some lame test, like a
Mm,
pistol test. I mean, the questions were so stupid. It was a waste of time.
yeah.
And then
Yeah,
you
but we
pay
know
a
that people in California are a little bit funky, right?
little
The
bit,
people in
a little
charge
bit.
there, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I know that on the other side of the planet.
yeah, it's
Do you
very
follow
true.
Trump Jr. on social media?
Yeah, he's a riot.
Dude, that guy's so funny. I wonder if he has like a team of people producing memes for him. It's so good.
No, I don't know. Like he just tweeted this morning about the Trump baby balloon. Maybe we should send that
I
over to
saw
China.
that.
And he goes, you know what?
Uh,
That is pretty funny.
Dude,
So
that guy
your
doesn't give
barrels.
any fucks.
So okay, so let's talk a little bit more about long range shooting. If
Hmm.
someone like me, where I'm not proficient in guns, I don't know everything about guns, but I'm trying to build this 700. I'm kind of getting into it.
Hmm.
How do you even start? Do you just go get a bolt action and put time on the range, or like what? So, if a brand new person that's into pistols wants to start shooting long range, what advice would you give them?
I would do a lot of homework before you open up your wallet. Um, I'm sort
Watch
of
my
like
videos.
that. Yeah. If only there was a channel. um, I think nowadays we're so spoiled with the resources we have. The YouTube gets a lot of flack from us as creators in the firearm space because of all the censorship and stuff that goes with YouTube. But I still think it's such an amazing resource because it was for me. I learned so many things by consuming information and learning from other people's mistakes, so that when I eventually open up my wallet, I buy the right thing. Yes, I
Right.
still bought the Ruger Precision Rifle, which I ended up changing, but at the time, I didn't know what I really wanted to do and what I really needed. So I could have potentially made or done a little bit more research, but the sport also evolved pretty quickly, and the new chassis like the ACC and those kind of things came out, which really changed the game. So I would just spend a ton of time researching, find out exactly what you want to do with it. If you just want to go out and have fun and plink with your mates, still do a lot of research because the difference between, buying one cartridge or another cartridge could mean the difference between, can you take that elk hunting in 3 years down the line when the hunting bug bites you or whatever the case may be. So I would just spend a little bit more time, make sure you're buying what is going to tick the boxes for you. And there's so many cool research or resources on YouTube or Facebook. There's great Facebook groups where you can
Right.
ask questions. Some of these groups can be a little bit toxic with, people, frowning upon a newbie's question. But what we have to remember is that everyone was a newbie initially. So, and people sometimes forget that. And then they try and make themselves feel good by shitting on a person that doesn't know what they know. And that's so stupid.
Yeah. And I tell people
Yeah.
too, it's like YouTube content creators have been under attack with the censorship, especially they've been coming down like a hammer this first month of January.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because exactly you're the textbook story of why they're trying to do it. Because a lot of people, when they first buy a gun or they want to get into guns, they go on YouTube or they buy their first pistol. And then they go,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I bought a Glock. Let's go on YouTube and look. And they go, oh, there's other guns besides Glock. And they go down this rabbit
Mm-hmm.
hole and they start learning and learning and learning. And they're like, man, this is really what I want to do. And I think YouTube is responsible for a lot of new gun owners. And if they could
Oh
cut
yeah.
off the head of the snake, if they could cut off YouTube down the line, it would really impact how many new gun owners.
So what are your thoughts? So I see comments often, Pete, you should upload to Rumble or you should do this or whatever the case is. But when I go to Rumble and I look at big channels, like big channels on YouTube, and I look at what their views are on YouTube versus what their views are on Rumble, it's like non-existent. And I
Yeah.
think largely that is because everybody has YouTube in their pocket. This is where it's the world's like second biggest search engine. So from that point of view, it like almost doesn't make sense. It's not worth the effort to upload my stuff to Rumble, I feel, because it'll
Well,
get
the
like
thing with
5 views.
Rumble, Pete, the thing with Rumble too is once you do an account, everything auto uploads from YouTube straight to Rumble. You don't
I
have to
did not know
re-upload.
that.
Yes. So
Okay, I did
once you
not know
set it
that.
up and then
Okay,
your whole library, you set it up, you share your YouTube library. It takes about a week and a half. Then all
and it
your
syncs.
videos migrate on their own to Rumble, and then everything you upload new goes to Rumble.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can
Okay, I'll
attach the
reconsider
accounts.
it.
Yeah. So I've
Okay,
gone
if
on Rumble maybe 7 or 8 times. All my videos are there. I don't upload one by one. You just link the accounts. It'll say processing forever, 2 weeks.
okay.
But eventually they'll all migrate over.
So I signed up for it initially, so I've got an account with them just to like reserve my username. But the process was so clunky, and then for like a long time there, it seemed like nothing happened, and the app was kind of dead, and so it kind of put me off. I don't know if they
Oh,
went through like a
it's not
funding
user
issue
friendly.
or, yeah. How many videos do you consume on Rumble?
Oh, me personally, none. I don't go on there.
Yeah, so that's the point, yeah, or sort of what has always been my resistance to doing that is because my audience is not there.
Well, that too, and it's more of an echo chamber too. I mean, you're only
Mm-hmm.
there with gun people. You're only there with other channels
Mm-hmm.
that can't hack it on
Yeah,
YouTube, and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's
I
growing
get
though.
a
It's
lot of.
not as bad. It's not as bad as it was 2 years ago or a year ago.
Have they got a smart TV app yet, where it could just be like on your TV?
Come on, man. Let's not be silly. That's
So that's all the problems,
that's
The
asking
fact that
too
YouTube
much.
is so, the ease of use is there, where I could literally hit a button on my TV remote, speak what I want to learn into the search bar, and instantly I'm presented with, this is the video or whatever. Here's 10 videos to choose from.
Yeah,
Like that's why we get a lot of views, on a
and it's
random video like you uploaded with yourself, and it's got
and it's
300,000 views.
always listening. So I told my wife, I go, I'm gonna have my friend Pete from South Africa on. She goes, South Africa? I go, yeah,
Hmm.
South Africa. Said it 3 times this morning. YouTube suggested 10 videos on apartheid.
Oh, beautiful.
And I'd never searched for that in my life. And I'm like,
Yeah, that's
what? All these
crazy.
South Africa, what's it like to live in Cape Town? The crime rate
Yeah.
through South Africa, the rape percentage per capita. I'm like, what is all they are
Hmm.
always listening to you guys.
Yeah,
If you
it
don't,
is.
yeah. So if you want to test it out, start talking about Disneyland. Just say Disneyland like 50 times in vacation. You're gonna start getting emails and YouTube and links to
Hmm.
vacation packages at Disneyland. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And if your viewers are listening to this on like a loudspeaker, they're now going to be presented with Disneyland packages. So it's our
Right.
pleasure, Disney World or Land. Or I sometimes say like, "Hey Siri, just to fuck with my viewers," because it'll set off all their things.
You know what's funny? So the joke here in the U.S. Is my wife wanted to get a Siri, and I said absolutely not. She's not coming to my house. And she goes, "You're just being paranoid." I go, "I'm not being paranoid." And she was laughing at me, and then I kind of laughed, and then Siri laughed.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah,
It tell you,
it's
man, they're
amazing.
always listening. I try not to do too much
Yeah.
tinfoil hat stuff, but it's
Mm.
contagious. So let's
But it's
talk about
reality. I mean,
YouTube.
I've seen that a lot
Let's
of
talk about
times.
your YouTube, Mister
Okay.
140,000 subscribers.
What do you want to
You
know?
went from 20,000 and what, just over 2 years to 140.
Yeah, so I've been actively doing YouTube now for about 6 years, and I was grinding away, every month, making 8 videos a month. And then one of my videos in the beginning of COVID just absolutely exploded, and I went from like 10,000 subscribers to 20,000 subscribers in maybe a week, and then it eventually started tapping off at like 80,000 subscribers. So that all happened. If you look at my social blade, it was this enormous spike. And then obviously YouTube at some point stops pushing out a video that's doing well and pushes out the next Mr. Beast video. So that's the window you have to do well on YouTube until Mr. Beast uploads again. And yeah, it was really cool. That was like a nice little boost. And then because that video was sort of outside of the wheelhouse of what I would normally upload, a lot of those people left again when they sort of my regular content started coming in, and I could see the massive amounts of people unsubscribing as I would make educational videos, because that was sort of just a fun video. We couldn't go out and shoot, so I made a video of where and perhaps if you're a shooter you can relate to this, but when I watch a TV show, I have a very hard time watching a TV show if there's any form of sort of gunplay involved, if they haven't done
Oh
it
yeah.
correctly, because I see all the mistakes they make. And so I made a video about that, and I did really well. I made a few videos like that did really well. So when I went back to sort of making my regular content, a lot of those people left, but that was fine because it's sort of, I just went through like a flat phase where I picked up new subscribers, but the channel wasn't really growing because people were leaving as fast as people were coming on. It was actually quite funny. Like when my channel did that and that video went super viral, I got accused by this idiot that manages this business in the US. And he said that I bought my subscribers from Russia. And I was like, how would I even do that? But
Hey, I've known people. I know someone in Houston that
yeah,
yeah, he hasn't released
that,
any new content really, and then he went
mm-hmm,
from like thousands of subs a day, every day, 6,000, 6,000,
really,
6,000, 6,000. It's
what?
crazy.
So it's quite easy to see, because when you go into videos and you look at the comments, you can spot the bot comments like immediately. And for
Well, it wasn't
me,
even the
this is my
comments. every
Yeah.
video was like maybe 1,000 views, and from 10
You just
1,000 view
yeah.
videos to like 40,000
Yeah.
subscribers, which
Yeah,
doesn't make any
it's
sense.
crazy. Yeah. So for me as a business, if YouTube sees any shenanigans, they'll just delete your channel, no questions asked. So why on earth would I mess with anything that could jeopardize my whole business? Because this is what I do for a living. I do YouTube full time. And I did at that point already. I went full time on YouTube at 10,000 subscribers already, which was a super risky move. My wife was pregnant at the time. It was quite gnarly. But yeah, it played off. You got to risk it to get the biscuit, as they say.
That's right. See, I was under the misconception of how easy YouTube was because I started in December of
Hmm.
2018, and by January 1, I had 10,000 subs and I had by
How?
when oh no, I had 1,000 subs by January 1, and then in 5 months
Yeah,
I had 10,000, and I was already making money. I was having a lot of good videos. It was during the ammo shortage,
crazy.
so I was
Oh,
doing
right.
ammo
Yeah.
videos, and I was like, this
Mm.
YouTube stuff is easy. And
Yeah.
then
I should have done this
reality
long
check
ago.
time. So I started doing
Yeah.
other stuff and like branching out, and that's gun reviews, gear reviews, more fun. And
Mm.
man, it's been a slow crawl. I'm almost at 20,000, and I went
I saw.
from
Yeah.
it's 10 to 20,000 in almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
It's been a very
So
slow progression, a lot of hard grinding.
mm, every now and again, you'll have a video like the one that's popping off now for you, and you'll gain like 5,000 subscribers in like a week. And that'll happen like systematically. So if you look at your sort of graph, obviously you must have had some kind of video do well initially, that got you that far
I had a
so
bunch.
quickly, which is
I had a bunch of
awesome. Yeah,
videos
that's freaking awesome.
crush
Like
right
I
away.
never had that. I never had that until I had 10,000 subscribers when one video got like, I was doing like 20,000 views a video. That was like average for me. And then all of a sudden the one video popped. And as soon as that video popped, like my other videos started popping, not major, but like, 200, 300,000 views. Main video has like 1.8 million views or whatever the case is. And a few of them did really well. And then it was almost like they just closed the tap and then nothing happened for like another year. And then I had like another little one that went kind of viral and then nothing happened. And then something happens again. It's weird how it works like that.
Yeah, if you look at my early videos, they're all cars videos. Because I started as a car channel, and since I
Okay.
had a GTR, I'd go to a lot of car meets, and I'd meet a lot of
Hmm.
cool people. Nobody watched it. Nobody cared.
And there's so much content though. So something's got to differentiate you.
You got to
And I
jump
feel
on
like
the
that,
hood and smash your window with a ad
you
and
got to
do
do
some
stupid
stupid
stuff.
whistling diesel stuff to get attention. Because it's the
So,
TikTok generation,
mm.
and I
So that's
despise it.
something that I have a very hard time with, like an internal struggle. Like I see the videos that get a lot of views in the firearm space, and that it's basically the same video being remade by a different creator or even the same creator, and they've been creating them for many years. It's the same thing
Right.
over and over. Like how many dinner plates does a freaking 223 go through, or whatever the case may be? And for me as a viewer, like I got tired of watching those videos before I was even a creator myself. And I just want to never be in that situation where I'm sort of rehashing the same content. So I'm always like on some kind of journey to, like, this year we're focused on this, and the next year we're focused on like another type of shooting or
Right.
mastering a certain aspect of something. And for me, that keeps me engaged as a creator, and hopefully keeps my audience engaged. And the other cool thing is when my audience finds my videos, they've got 6 years worth of videos to go back and learn and see how all the things we've done. They're not going to watch 6 years worth of the same video effectively, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think the replay value is really great on your videos. Like my first videos, there's no replay value because the ammo scarcity of 2019 doesn't
Mm,
mean shit in 2022 or
exactly. Yeah.
23. But um, I I don't hate the other people for having their gun content a little cartoony.
Oh yeah,
Um,
each to his own.
but
I mean,
it
it's
it plays
sometimes
to the lowest.
frustrating.
It plays to the lowest common denominator, kind of TikTok, and that kind of
Mm,
I don't know. Hey, whatever. They're obviously doing something right. I don't hate the game. Let them do them.
hmm.
That's just not the route I want to go.
Yeah, for sure. It's also yeah,
I think I might
it's not
start.
the
I,
route
I, I might start doing some long range precision content. I heard that's pretty good to get into.
dude. We have like 5 creators doing that, so you'll be number 6, and it'll be awesome to have you.
Yeah. Hey, you can end your videos like, okay, this is how you do it. If you want to know how not to do it, watch Smash Time over
Smash
here.
time. Your
Also, I
channel would
wanted
actually be good for like blowing up shit just because of the name, like Smash Time. Today we're gonna shoot a 55-inch TV at 1,000 yards, and you'll have
yeah,
like a
well, you know
deer
what's
standing
great too is
broadside, and you shoot it.
Impact Shooting. That's a very catchy name, also.
Yeah, I actually rebranded. I was called because my name's Pete, and it was called Pete Skeet initially because in Skeet in Afrikaans, which is the language we speak. So if my English is not wonderful, it's because English is not my first language. That's how the most Afrikaners speak. I'm gonna get shit for that. They've got like quite a thick Afrikaans accent, or some of them at least. And eventually I got to the point where, for the American viewer or European viewer, Pete Skeet means nothing. Whereas Impact Shooting was like, okay, cool, that kind of means something. Let me check this out, and I rebranded. And that was almost coincided with that first video popping off. But I think that first video sort of had more to do with COVID, and the fact that, we had so many people scared, don't know what's going on. And they had all of this time on their hands because they weren't at work and, faffing around on YouTube, which was great for us.
Hey, since I have you on, do I have to do anything fancy to put this stock on that Remington 700? Should I take this somewhere and have someone that
It
knows the
should just
game?
be plug and play. Is there like a mini chassis in there?
Uh,
Because you're on my phone for the viewers that are seeing my big fancy camera angle, but I can barely make out what kind
there's
of
two
stock
little
that is.
screws. There's two little screws. It looks like
Okay,
it
then
just
you should just be plug and play.
so you don't have to
If
like
you're having
grab.
accuracy problems, send me a photograph afterwards, and I can revert back to you. A lot of these like this chassis, for example, this ACC from Modular Driven Technologies, abttech.com, shameless plug. They're a sponsor of my channel. Like this is basically bedded already, effectively, so you don't need to bed this. But because I can't see so lekker there, I just don't want to give you the wrong answer. But for the most part, the new chassis systems, that's the beautiful thing about it. Like I can take a rifle out, pop it into a different chassis, and go out to 1,000 yards almost immediately.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so the
Now,
repeatability is very, very cool.
is there a limit to how many guns you can buy a year?
No, the limit is your wallet and your wife.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell you
Yeah,
what, since your little girl's 5 now?
3.
Oh, 3, man.
Behaves like she's 5.
I tell you what, so let me you're gonna go through stages where your wife's gonna be like, "Hey, let's put her in ballet. Let's put her in this. Let's put her in this." Some very, very expensive hobbies. Just say no.
Dude, I literally this morning we had a conversation about equestrian. Like, can she join the horse
No,
riding thing at school?
that's
And I
the
was like,
worst
no,
one.
no.
See, we're in
Let me
Texas, so there's
restart this
horses
video
everywhere.
quickly for us because it's gonna time out again. Boom, boom. Okay, we're rolling again. Yeah, so
Because we're
she,
in
she's.
Texas, so we're in Texas. There's equestrian places everywhere, horse jumping, and then her friend. What really kills it is her friend. She's 7, so her friend is really into horseback riding and
Yeah,
jumping. And it's man,
yeah.
five, six,
But
seven hundred
Becky
dollars.
does it. Oh no, no, thank you. I'm good.
Ballet is probably the cheapest route. Figure
Yeah. So we.
skating,
So yeah. Mine's very small still. So most of these things they're doing at the preschool. The problem is the preschool is literally on an equestrian farm. So that's probably not good. So it's like in one of the sheds that they sort of repurpose into like a little play school for the kids. So it's very cool because she's sort of having a similar experience like I had as a kid. So they were going out and they're milking cows in the morning and doing those kind of things, which is really cool. And you never get that anymore. And it's in a safe, controlled environment, 5 minutes from my house. So it's very convenient.
that's funny. You went from milking cows to long range precision shooting.
Well, I
YouTube
was
celebrity.
really milking the cows, I was supervising.
Hey, let me ask
I
you a
don't know
question.
much about milking cows.
When you met Demolition Matt at the Gundies, I mean at
Yeah.
Shot Show, did you tell him it's all his fault?
I didn't have the time. He's kind of like swamped by everyone. But I reached
Right.
out to him to do a collab, but I think he gets so many people reaching out to him to try and bump up their channels. But I think I can provide some cool value to his viewers, and if he's ever keen, offer stands. We can blow some shit up at long distance. It'll be
Yeah.
fun.
I tell you, I hooked up with her name's Lauren Stroud. She's a long range shooter in Texas, and her husband.
Hmm.
they shoot here. I think she shot at 3 miles or something. She's like the world
Oh
record
yeah.
holder, female shooter. Yeah. So
Okay.
at SHOT Show, she was in the Kydex defense booth, and her
Oh yeah,
rig,
yeah.
her rifle looked absolutely bananas. It had this weird
Mm-hmm.
bipod thing on the front. It looked like it's not what it's not what I see in movies. You know, it looked
Yeah.
absolutely bananas.
Those
And
Kydex rifles are beautiful.
they are expensive.
Don't look at the money. It's an investment.
So I was talking to the rep. I'm like, well, what's your entry rifle? Well, this one's about 7,500. I'm like, oh gosh,
Yeah.
shucks. That's with no
Yeah.
glass.
No optic. Yeah. So we can run. My little match rifle that I shoot. It's currently this black one behind me, but I've sort of changed the configuration just for a different type of match that's coming out shortly. But that's for about $9,000.
Yeah. Oh, since this is recorded,
So,
you can touch guns if you want to touch guns.
ooh, that's good. It's the depth of field. It's a little bit further behind me, but yeah.
Hey, speaking of depth of field, I noticed a theme with a lot of your videos right away. The quality was there almost instantly as far as the camera. So did you have like a photography background? Because your videos were really, really good very quickly. That's something that most people
Thank you.
struggle with the first 5 or 6
Yeah,
years.
it is. So for me, like I like cool stuff, and so no, to answer your question, I have zero photography background or video background, nothing like that. Once I figured out, like, I was consuming content and I realized that I could probably do a better job at presenting some of the stuff as soon as I sort of started grasping some of the concepts. And I also realized that I could execute the quality of these videos so much better, and it's not that difficult to do. I mean, you see now the type of stuff we can film on our phones. And, so simultaneously to going sort of down the rifle background, when I decided consciously that I'm going to grow a YouTube channel, I just went down a photography background or like a rabbit hole too, and I started watching photography channels, and I sort of started seeing how they present products, and I was like, well, that's cool. That can work in our world, and that's sort of where I learned cameras and editing, and everything is self-taught. And I still make major cock-ups every now and again, but with the magic of editing or a reshoot, we could just do it
Right.
again.
You know, it's funny, when you start YouTube, nobody tells you that you have to learn how to do storyboard. You have to learn how to edit. You have to learn how to do production. You have to actually have some type of script. You can't just wing it. Even on live streams like this, I mean, I have a little bit of
Yeah.
notes on the side that I go off of, and I
hmm
always do a deep dive into the background a little bit. I want some things to be a surprise, but I want to bring up the main
hmm
points. And like your story, I thought was really fascinating how, your stepdad really taught you a lot about finance, and that kind of was like your role model. Then your journey through finance to where you got frustrated with your sales staff not
Yeah.
producing, and so you just kicked them to the curb, and then now you do YouTube full time, which is great. It's such a
Yeah.
good story.
Yeah. I'm on the verge of now doing another little project because I love cars. As I said, I need a Lamborghini. Or no, I don't need a Lamborghini, but I'm gonna have a
Yes, you do.
Lamborghini at some point in time. So if I want that Aventador SVJ, I'm gonna have to make a little bit more money than I make on YouTube. So I'm busy with like another entrepreneurial thing, which hopefully pays off in the long run. We'll see. So many exciting things in the
So
future, but I'm not going to stop creating content even if I do pull that off. It just means that I can put a team in place to help me create even better content.
So you own a company that makes suppressors and muzzle brakes and whatnot?
Yeah, with a friend of mine. Yeah. So we have
Okay.
like the CNC machines. It's called Axis Precision Works, and we make carbon fiber chassis. We make super cool stuff.
Nice. Do you make a chassis for the Remington
Yeah.
700?
Yes, we do. I've got one over here. Stand by. I can't
Because
show this on my channel.
I
So
happen to
this
know a
guy,
YouTuber
yeah,
that's looking for one.
yeah. So this is called the Carbon X. It's new from us. I see what you did there, by the way. But I can't show this on my channel because I've got conflicting sponsorship stuff. So I haven't actually ever shown this on my channel, it is what it is. But yeah, that is new, and they're selling really well. So we're super pumped on that. Yeah. So essentially, yeah, we make the carbon fiber chassis, which is new. We make muzzle brakes. We make some super cool reloading stuff. And yeah, the muzzle brakes they're called the Raptor, and they freaking work. If you're familiar with the channel called Ultimate Reloader, you should go check that out. It's my friend Gavin's channel. he does some amazing in-depth deep dives on like rifle builds and stuff. And we're sending some stuff out to him, so our product should be on his channel soon, which I'm super pumped for.
Nice. And everyone that's watching this live, all the links are below in the description. Please definitely subscribe to Pete's channel. Like him on Instagram. I'm sure he'd greatly appreciate it. And check out his
Yeah.
website where he sells his fancy schmancy doodads, because
Yeah.
I'll have my eye on a few of them. Actually, I saw
And
some of your muzzle brakes at the Gundies. You brought some stateside.
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I did bring some samples. Yeah.
Yeah, those were very nice. Everyone was humping your leg trying to get them from you. I was trying not
This
to get
is
in that
true.
line, but they look pretty sweet.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. And the good thing is they look good and they work. And there's like I've always been of the school of thought, like my stuff needs to look good, whether that's this rifle or whatever rifle, when I was into cycling or cars, or it needs to look good and perform. You shouldn't compromise. And I think we nailed it on that product.
Nice. I noticed a carbon fiber theme going through like your chassis. I'm pretty
Cars,
sure you probably had a carbon
bicycles.
fiber bike.
Oh yeah, carbon fiber wheels, handlebars, seat stem, freaking everything.
Yeah, I love it. I love carbon fiber, man. I can't get
Yeah.
enough. There's a company I saw in SHOT Show. They make a knife, Picasso knives. It's a
Okay.
super lightweight knife, and it's made for like if you wear a business suit or something very sophisticated.
Right. Yeah.
It's sexy. Damascus steel, carbon fiber blade. It's thin. I had to get one.
Awesome.
As soon as I got back, I called them up. I'm like, I gotta buy one. Can I buy it right now? Like,
Yeah, that's cool.
it's a brand new company, so watch out for
Okay.
that video. It's gonna be sweet.
Nice. I'm like a little bit of a carbon fiber slut, if we can say that. Yeah.
100%.
Especially, do you know what my favorite carbon fiber is? It's forged carbon fiber. I don't know if you're familiar with how that looks. So
Forged
essentially, it's
carbon fiber.
instead of like the weave where you see the actual weave, forged carbon fiber is a process where they essentially cut up excess pieces of carbon, or just proper pieces of carbon, and then they press them together with resin, where it's sort of this random pattern, but it looks so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I've seen that. That does look pretty sweet.
Yeah, difficult to manufacture, very difficult. Yeah, because we tried that on this and it wasn't really viable.
So your channel is at 140,000 subs. What projects do you have coming up? What videos do you have coming out next?
I've actually just announced a video where I'm scaling back on the amount of videos I'm making, just because I was doing 8 videos a month of like 12 to 15-minute videos, and they're all educational videos, and I'm a team of one. So editing, filming, producing, scripting, all of this stuff. It was just too much.
Yeah.
And so for now, I've got a couple of hunting videos on the way that were still filmed in last year that I'm still trying to crank out. We're heading into sort of our match season now. I'm going to travel quite a bit, shoot a few matches. So when I go to matches, I just take camera along and I vlog at a match, which the guys really enjoy. Because then there's every single time I go out shooting, I learn something, or I make a stupid mistake where we can learn something. And it's just such a good teaching opportunity. And even for myself, and this is sort of a theme throughout my channel, like I videoed myself shooting initially so that I could watch the footage back and correct mistakes the next time I go out. And I'd highly encourage any shooter, doesn't matter what you're doing, if you're shooting a bow and arrow or a Glock or a precision rifle, video yourself. And it's sort of like a journal that you have. And yeah, you can reference that back. And also it's a nice tool to sort of see your progression. Like when I look at a video of myself shooting 5 years ago, I go like, oh, my shattered nerves. Whereas now it's like, it feels like I'm on autopilot and I'm not trying hard and I'm just so much faster than the guy that looks like he's going fast, but he's shooting like an ass.
Man,
Yeah.
So when someone starts long range precision shooting, so you buy this kick-ass rifle, you get, a couple thousand rounds of really nice whatever ammo. Is there a process? I mean, is there techniques to learn? Are there how you hold the rifle? I mean, is there a whole process to it? Like, should I go out with precision shooters to learn?
Yes. You don't need a rifle to do that. You can literally just volunteer and go RO a match, or just go as a spectator at a match and hang around with the guys and just say to them, listen, Alex, I'm looking at getting into this. Do you mind if I follow your squad along? And just ask a few questions. Obviously, just don't bother a guy as he's about to go on the shooting line. That goes without saying. But generally speaking, the guys in our sport are phenomenal and they're so willing to help. And as I said, a nice way to do that and sort of have the best of both is to RO, to be the range officer at a match. And you'll spend the day on a stage. And even if it's assisting somebody else that has done the RO thing before, just by keeping score, you will see so many little things that the guys are doing and it'll help you a lot. What I'll also do for you, I'll give you access to, I sell courses online where I teach people the art of long range shooting and reloading and all of those kind of things. So I'll give you access to all of that, and perhaps we could even chuck in a little coupon code for all your viewers if they're interested in picking
Oh,
up
that'd
one of
be
my
very
courses.
cool.
But that'll set you off in sort of the precision rifle thing. And I'm planning a couple of courses to add to that this year, so it's a very exciting time for me.
Yeah,
The
like for
courses
me,
are
the
a lot
direction.
of work though.
Yeah, the direction I want to take my channel in 2023 is, there's so many of these tactical guys out there, and it's cool. I was never served in the military. That's not kind of my thing.
Mm,
I want to bring it circle more towards family stuff. Like I got two little kids.
mm.
Um, my daughter, I talked to this company at SHOT. I can't name the name yet, but they sent me a sweet red chassis for a Ruger 1022, and
Oh, nice.
it arrives today. So she's going to get her
Okay.
own little rifle. And then my son has a Ruger Precision in 22 that he is just, we went shooting yesterday. He shot for 3 hours, just nonstop load, shoot, load, shoot, load, shoot. And
Awesome.
yeah, I told him how to hold the rifle a little bit better. He goes, Dad, you're going to mess up my cheek. I'm like, you're what? He goes, yeah, my cheek has to sit just like this or it doesn't feel right. I'm like, whatever,
Then
man.
it's a natural.
Yeah, I go, you're 10, knock it off. But
Yeah, that's funny.
I
So
want to
I'm
get
also
them into
excited about
shooting.
that, getting my kiddo involved as she's a little bit older. Yeah,
Did
so
your
that's
wife
going to
give
be a
you an
lot of
age
fun.
limit?
No, my wife does not tell me what to do, sir.
That's right. 'Cause Pete's a man. People in America. That's how they do it in
my
South Africa.
my kid was 1 year old. 1 year old, 1 day old, and the next day I went to buy her 22. It was kind of just an excuse to buy myself another rifle, but the next day I bought a 22 for her, and I have the exact same 22. So now I have two of those.
Oh my gosh, that kid is going to be so
Yeah.
smart. What a lucky kid.
Oh yeah, and she'll be sponsored by Vortex by the time she's 10, so it'll be amazing.
Yeah. Do you ever watch who's that little girl?
Alison Zane
No,
or
there's a
Lena
little
Michalak, which one?
no, there's a little
Oh
girl.
no, hmm
You know who I'm talking about, right?
no idea.
Autumn's Armory.
Oh, I've seen that. Yes, she was
Yeah, she's
nominated at
like
the Gandhis too for something, wasn't she?
yeah, she was at the Gundies. She's like
Mm,
7, 8 years old, man, and she is crushing it. She's probably shot
hmm
and had more training than most men.
hmm
And she's 10. I
Yeah,
think she just turned 10.
yeah. It's such a fine line with what you do with your kids on the internet and the weird people on the internet, man. Yeah. So I'm sort of wrestling with that still.
Very true. Very true. Like
Yeah.
that's I give a lot of credit to Casey Neistat because as much as he has his kids on his channel, he always blurs out the face. They're always private. There's
Mm,
never
yeah.
you would never see
I
him
did that
on
with
like
my daughter. Yeah. When she was small, I would have her on, but like even now, if she features in the video, she's always looking away, or I film her like from the back of her ear, so you don't know what she looks like.
right, right.
Yeah. Just for that. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many weirdos out there. All right, Pete. So, you have a successful business. You're making brakes, you're making suppressors, you're making chassis now. You got this YouTube thing is blowing up. You recently started a podcast on Spotify, which I thought was interesting.
hmm
And how far are you going to take that?
Maybe now that I've dropped the amount of videos that I'm delivering, I can focus a little bit more on the podcast and do sort of longer format stuff because I really enjoy doing this. I hate having to force everything into a 12-minute video because that's the capacity of my audience. And I know a lot of my audience also enjoy the longer form videos. So lately I've been sort of skimping on the podcast just because I've been so overwhelmed with all of the projects I have. But as things sort of evolve, I quite want to still dive into my backstory, like my intro to the finance world, how I took that and invested into cryptos and stuff relatively early, used that money to sort of, you know, tide myself over while I built the YouTube channel. So all of those kind of things I
Right.
still want to get into. So we'll see where 2022 three goes. Good Lord, I'm
Yeah, I
stuck
remember you
behind.
mentioned in one of your podcasts where you don't listen to the radio, you just listen to podcasts and get educated. Me
Yeah.
too. It's like if it's not Joe Rogan, if it's not
Mm.
current 2A news, Now, probably your podcast. I'll add that to the list. But for me, listening to like songs and music, I don't learn anything from it, and it's kind of,
Mm.
for me anyway, it's kind of a waste of time. So it's
Yeah,
either
I just listen to
podcast,
music when I work out. Yeah,
yeah. So it's from when I drive, it's either a podcast or I just have the radio off. I like silence, really.
yeah.
Plus, when I had the
Listening to that
GTR,
V8 baby.
if you have a nice car, you love that sound too. So,
Exactly. Yeah. I actually
well,
look forward to long drives where I could, listen to a nice long podcast or an audiobook or something like that. I really enjoy that.
100%. Well, hey,
Mm.
don't be a stranger to the channel. I hope if you come out to the Gundies, I got a polite rejection letter where I asked to go and they said
Bummers.
no.
Can I forward you my invite? You could just go as me.
I think they might know us. I don't know if you've noticed. I'm a little bit huskier than you are.
Just roll your R's and they'll think you're South African.
South African. It's funny because I hang out with a couple of South Africans. That's a very hard accent to get down.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Please don't be a stranger. If you're ever in Texas, please let me know, and we'll go out for a really great steak.
Sounds like a
Texas,
deal. Thank you so much
we
for
have.
having me. It's great seeing you again.
Likewise, everybody in the chat, make sure you look in the description, like, comment, subscribe to his information. I'm sure he'd appreciate it. If you're not a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so
Yeah.
much for watching. Till next time.